It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again, time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 338. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar. Grace.
Hi.
Kodra.
Howdy.
Tam.
Hello.
And Thalen.
Hi.
So, there's a topic that kind of came up this week, off air, and it's largely bolstered by the fact that people are freaking out over the $38 billion valuation of the Roblox initial public offering, because everybody's like, why Roblox?
Because you haven't been paying attention.
I was going to say, is that what all the kids are doing now?
It is.
It is. And like, I've never played Roblox because it was so horrifically ugly for the longest time that I just couldn't do it. Like in theory, it looked really cool, but...
Like, I'll admit, I'm kind of unclear what it even is. I get the impression it's basically like Second Life, but without the porn.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the time to penis is still there on Roblox. Like, I know they've banned stuff in the past because people were making penises out of them.
You know. Welcome to the internet.
Yeah. So, like, the original avatars that they had are these horrific, really bad knockoff Lego-looking things. And, like, that was the initial turn-off for me. But, like, apparently they have normal-looking avatars now.
They have for some time.
And apparently, like, there's some guidance that went out where nobody should use the old avatars to represent Roblox anymore.
That's funny.
But yeah, like...
So is this one of those cases like Fortnite where what became popular was, like, not the original game at all?
I think
not
for the most
exactly.
Like, I think for the most part, the part that is really popular is the creator functionality where you can, like, build little mini games.
I was going to say Roblox is more of a game framework than anything else.
Yeah, I was going to say everything I've heard about it makes it sound like it's a platform.
Yeah, it's definitely a platform. I mean, there's game studios that release exclusively on Roblox,
Which is kind of weird to me, but I mean, I get that it's a thing. It also targeted a very specific demographic, and I think was relatively affordable to play.
Yeah.
Well, and like, started as free.
Kids can make money.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Lego Universe was created in an attempt to compete with Roblox, but like it failed miserably.
I thought Lego Universe predated Roblox.
I thought so too.
I don't think so. Roblox is 2006.
I guess not then.
Roblox has been around relatively.
Yeah, Lego Universe is 2010
for a long time.
So I did not know Roblox was that old.
Yeah.
Having only, I think, heard things about it in the last 5 years or so.
Yeah.
Like, I only really knew it was a thing because for the longest time, I didn't want to give my credit card to SOE. So anytime because like early in my EQ days, they like double or triple charge my account or something like that. So like I was real hesitant to give SOE back my credit card. So I would buy game cards for SOE games. And there were always Roblox cards there too, which caused me to Google what the hell is Roblox. And it, I don't know, like, I mean, it's I think it's always quietly been there. And part of the discussion from earlier this week is like, there's a bunch of games that are wildly popular that no one's heard of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's really easy. I mean, part of the thing that made me think about it is it's really easy to be like, oh yeah, you know, what are the biggest games? And people immediately think like Call of Duty and Mario and...
I mean, first of all, you should probably start thinking about some Chinese mobile games like Crossfire.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's the thing is it's like, I mean, it goes back to the conversation we had about mobile games before. I was just looking at Roblox's history about when did it actually get really big? Oh, when they released on mobile.
That makes sense.
Like, I mean, huge. It's just immense. But like, it's one of those things that in the core gaming conversation, you just don't see people talking about the actual biggest games. And I always find that interesting because it's like then people are blindsided. Well, I mean, then people are blindsided by stuff like I already forget the name of it, but the Diablo mobile game.
Diablo Immortal. Yeah.
Like Diablo Immortal should have surprised precisely 0 people anywhere. But the idea that like, oh, why would they port Diablo into mobile? And like, are you kidding? That's the perfect place to put it.
That was still not the right audience to pitch it to.
It's fair, but I think that's what I think is really interesting is that the core, in a lot of ways, the core audience is just so unaware of how small a piece of the pie they actually are.
Yeah.
And you end up in some just fascinating, weird places.
Well, like Dungeon Fighters Online is traditionally the highest grossing PC game every single month, yet nobody's heard of it.
Well, other than all the people who play it.
Yeah, like, I mean, but like traditionally it is a thing that no one has a clue what it is. I mean, that one I have actually played, but it is interesting, like the dichotomy of like everything that gets press and the stuff that is actually really, really, really making massive amounts of money.
Yeah.
I mean, how much of that is this is a baby game for babies? Like, it's the game that the kids are playing. It's not the game that the adults are playing.
Well, that's all blurring with stuff like Fortnite.
To a degree.
But yeah.
But everybody is, that's what I'm saying, is everybody's heard about Fortnite.
Yeah.
Like, whether you play Fortnite or not, you have heard about it. You know that it exists. This, Roblox, like, lots and lots of people, like, have no idea. And is that because it's predominantly being played by kids?
Yeah,
like,
I'm not totally sure. Well, and the thing that I think is really interesting, and the thing that sort of got me down this Roblox thing was the thing I was reading about. Okay, so you can make games in Roblox. How do you let people know they exist? And there are ads, like user created ads for content in Roblox. And like they're ads made by the thing that I was reading was a commentary from a professional studio that was like, we had to completely rethink the way we advertise our professionally made games because our ads weren't effective in Roblox. Because they had like marketing behind it and they told you things about what you might play.
Aha.
But all the most successful ads in Roblox, like the entire Roblox advertising meta, for lack of a better word, is just like clickbait memes.
Right.
It's like how hard can you meme? Can you make a clickbaity enough meme to get people to try your stuff?
That makes sense.
And like,
It's like the Wild West of the internet all over again.
Right.
Just in this new, yeah.
And to some extent, there's like the constantly reinventing the wheel in game development. Because like, for better or worse, your Western and Japanese core game has been around. It's basically like has been around since video games have existed. And like, there's a lot of design lessons that have been learned over decades. And seeing what of those transfers and what doesn't is sort of interesting because you end up with a lot of people that are just like relearning the same things over and over again. You know, somebody was commenting, a developer friend of mine was commenting that watching Roblox is like watching the late 90s, early 2000s in video games when everyone was rediscovering 3D, just like playing out again and again and again at speed.
No, I'm definitely feeling old. I have no idea what any of this stuff is.
No, we are the olds now. It's just how it is.
I mean, like, I was vaguely interested, but again, it was how ungodly ugly the avatars were that turned me off.
Well, and that's and the thing that I find really interesting is that I don't think they're any uglier than like classic EQ.
Oh no, they're
No,
they're
the
real
original
bad.
avatars.
They're real
They're
bad.
pretty ugly.
Like, okay, so growing up, there was a knockoff of Legos that, for whatever reason, was only ever sold at like grocery stores or places that really had no business of selling toys. And like, that's what they remind me of, is like, I'm having to relive those bad memories of these horrible knockoff Legos.
You mean this thing that's like a blue square with 2 yellow rectangles and 2 green rectangles? I'm trying to find one of these old.
When they updated the avatars, they posted a link of all of them side by side. Posted several graphics actually of all of them side by side through the ages.
Huh.
I mean, if what I'm finding here is the original, it basically looks like a square on top of another square with a couple of rectangles stuck on the sides and
a poorly drawn face.
Yeah,
a really poorly drawn face.
Oh yeah,
like it's like what if a minifig had 0 articulation?
Yes, they have come a long way.
Yeah,
but like they now have avatars they're attempting to compete with like Fortnite style avatars, and those are the ones that they really want people to use in press shots. But like, there's a bunch of these games that are quietly making a killing, but like nobody ever talks about,
or at least nobody in, for lack of a better term, like the mainstream games conversation.
I mean, yes, but the mainstream game conversation already pretends mobile games don't exist.
Yeah,
a large part of it.
Well, but it makes me wonder, like, okay, so who is talking about these? Like, where are those conversations happening? Are they happening?
I think it's word of mouth.
Yeah, but I also suspect that there are, like, if this is trending younger, you're probably seeing it a lot in YouTube channels targeted at younger kids.
Yep, streaming and YouTube. I bet you're right.
Yeah, I mean, like, just like Minecraft content is heavily targeted at kids, I'm sure this is all heavily targeted at kids. I mean, and I assume the Dungeon Fighters thing is mostly like overseas.
I have no idea why that game has not been able to achieve any success here, despite having released here twice. But I believe that's ridiculously popular in Korea and China. I have also played that one.
Yeah, I've played a little bit of it. It was aggressively fine. It wasn't great, but it wasn't horrible either.
I think I'd say it's actually pretty good. No, let me rephrase. I think I'd say it's eventually pretty good. When you're a fighting game character who basically has no specials, it's not that exciting.
Yeah. Once you actually get some abilities, it becomes interesting. But like, it's a side-scrolling fighting game.
What if Final Fight were an MMO?
Weird. Yeah.
I was trying to think of other games than these two that are just like super popular, but nobody talks about them.
I
mentioned one earlier. Crossfire is one.
Yeah, Crossfire is one. It's hard to find them. Like that's the lack of non-ephemeral, because I sort of think of YouTube channels and streaming as ephemeral media, but like the lack of that kind of conversation means it's really difficult to figure out without going through and reading like, business reports.
That's usually how we find out about these.
Yeah. But it doesn't. But you don't get the sense of like, what do okay, so that more people play Roblox than anything else. But like, what is that telling you about like, where is the industry going? Who knows? Because all of the big things that are moving the industry are invisible. Like the biggest, the games that are played by the absolute most people, the conversations about how they're doing and what they're doing are like kind of inaccessible, or at least not you don't have like you don't really see dev diaries, or at least I haven't seen those anywhere. I can pull up 50 articles on rope physics in The Last of Us 2, which sure, absolutely incredible, but like design space in Roblox. What are the popular, why are the popular games popular? What are some interesting insights from Roblox? What are some interesting insights from Crossfire? What are some interesting insights from all these other things that like kind of inspire other future games? It's hard to find.
Well, and like, I feel like Second Life had a lot of really interesting things going on, but all people talked about was the porn.
Right.
Well, that or trying to use it to advertise
make
external
money.
businesses.
Yeah, like I spent a bunch of time in a fully realized, like highly detailed role-playing cyberpunk city in Second Life, and it was incredibly cool, but like not what anybody talks about.
I remember that my algorithms professor was obsessed with After Second Life way back when.
Yeah, it was
My computer
real big in
graphics
academia
professor
for a
was
while.
obsessed with Second Life.
Yeah, I mean, Second Life, I did a ton of stuff. It was fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I worked in online learning for a while years ago, and my boss was obsessed with Second Life.
Like,
The idea of using it as an online learning space.
I mean, AG / Saracel was big into Second Life, and I tried to understand what it was about it that was interesting, but like, I don't know, like it was just, to me, it ended up just coming across as pretty IRC. And like, I feel like I was somehow missing the point. But like, I feel like there's a lot of things that I somehow am missing the point on. Like, when I don't understand why a thing is as popular as it ultimately is.
Yeah, and I think that's where the like more broad, accessible public conversation really helps, because it's like, oh, because then you can see like, oh, this is why people like this. Like, there's plenty of like more core games that I didn't understand the appeal of until I read or heard somebody talking about, oh, this is how you play it. This is how it's approached. Oh, at the point at which I approach it that way, I'm having a totally different experience, and this all clicks and makes sense. Like, I mean, a super straightforward example to me was bullet hell shooters, which I found to be miserable and completely unfun until somebody pointed out that it's a pattern memory. It's not a game about shooting things. It is a game about memorizing patterns and avoiding them. The fact that you're actually shooting anything in the game is almost totally irrelevant and acts as more of a clock than anything else. I was like, oh, that's a totally different way to think about these games than I ever imagined. Because I think spaceship that shoots, it's a game about shooting things with a spaceship, and it's really not.
Well, I think another prime example is how vastly different StarCraft is for a casual player or a serious player.
Yep. That's totally another one where it's like, oh, that's how you play StarCraft.
And I guess the same thing can be said between like playing a MMO casually versus like hardcore raiding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do wonder if like ultimately core gaming is going to doom themselves to irrelevancy, because the scale of these non-core games are just so much larger.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of things that aren't super approachable about, like, say, mobile games, for example. Like, I still find the touchscreen interface to be wildly foreign to me.
But you might not if you grew up with it.
Yeah,
It's true.
Yes. Because, like, there's part of me that's, like, still it feels like the worst possible way to control a video game. But, like, when you get a game that was designed for that platform, I think they all work very well. Monument Valley is one that I played through not long ago, and that's a great game.
I played it all the way through Monument Valley, and yeah, that was really fun.
It was way shorter than I thought it was going to be, but, like, it was a great game.
I find board games pretty fun.
I think board games translate extremely well to a touchscreen interface, since that's a tactile experience already.
There's also there's also a certain amount of, hey, what if the expected play session of games is changing dramatically? You know, what if, because, like, you know, we're all used to a gaming experience where you sit down for a few hours and play a game, but like that might not be how that works in relatively short order.
I mean, I admit that would kind of bum me out a little bit, just because it kind of limits the type of experience that you can have.
But that's the kind of experience. I mean, I've been playing mobile games for years now. I mix that experience with what I think of as a traditional, couple hour game session all the time.
Yeah, it's nice to have something that, like, if I only have 20 minutes, it's nice to have something that I could, like, actually do that only takes that long.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the reasons that Hades was so sticky, was, that I knew that if I had, like, about a half hour to play, I could probably do a run from start to finish. I mean, especially if I, died. But even a successful run, like, 25 to 35 minutes is about, normal if you're not speedrunning. I'm sure plenty of people are faster than me, but,
Mostly I'm slower than you.
A game like Book of Demons, I think it was, that let you take a little slider and tell it how long approximately you wanted to spend on your session today, and it would custom build your dungeon based on how long you felt like playing.
Okay, that
was cool. A game where I could not believe it wasn't a mobile game when I played it.
I wish it was a mobile game, because I guess that's part of it too, is like I'm looking for something on mobile platform that I'm not finding yet. And it's the fidelity of a game like Book of what was it, Book of Demons?
Yeah.
But the problem is so many of the mobile experiences have some sort of gotcha mechanic built in. That's why I liked Monument Valley so much, is it was just buy it outright and play it. And there wasn't a long tail to the interaction. And like those type of games seem to be fewer and further between on the mobile platform. Or if they exist, they're like a port of something that you already got on the PC. Because like all of the PC RPGs from the 90s exist on mobile, and they're all purchase outright type titles. And I don't know, like partially I think mobile as a platform sold themselves short early on in the kinds of monetization schemes that they have access to.
Yeah, monetization is a whole other can of worms. It's like, how do you actually get people to pay for all the work you've done?
And it's hard when a lot of people consider an expensive game to be $5.
Right. Well, and like a quote-unquote full-price game on mobile is like $20 at most.
Unless you're Square.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I'm still thinking of Square when I'm thinking of $20 games, because like they have a bunch of games that are in that price point. But even there, like, that's just a lot of ports of things that we played on other platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would love to see
that said,
some first-run games that are...
The version of The World Ends With You on mobile is probably one of the best ways to play it.
Which one?
The World Ends With You.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, and there's also stuff like NeoCab, like South of the Circle, which are great. I mean, I guess South of the Circle is also on... Is that also on Switch?
I do not know.
And there's a lot of mobile games that never make it to Android, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah. I mean, South of the Circle, what I've played of it was great. Like, great on the this is powerful and moving and narrative focused the way a game I sit down on the PlayStation is. And NeoCab is at least as good as a whole bunch of indie games I played on Steam, for starters. And there's another one that I can't remember the name of. Assemble with Care? Yes, Assemble with Care.
So another topic that's been kind of winding around for a while is a discussion about difficulty settings on games.
So this came because I was playing, I want to say it was Rabbids. So Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, and specifically my son was playing it. And I realized that in many ways, the game was making itself harder for him because he was not able to achieve the level of success that would get him rewards that would allow the game to become easier. And this led to me being like, well, wait a second. So if I'm playing this game and I am highly successful, the game's reaction to that is to make itself easier for me. But if I am playing this game and I am struggling, the game's reaction is to make it harder for me.
Well, yeah, because rewards are for winners.
And this was the moment at which I realized, no, games need a better way to say, oh, you are a person who is trying to play at a higher level. Allow us to, like, make the game more difficult and interesting for you. Like, maybe you get the interesting reward still, but also, like, now you can play on a higher difficulty. Especially games that have, like, rewards snowball your victory definitely need ways to make them easier for people who aren't getting those snowballing victories.
Yeah, I mean, something that I've run into is that a lot of games sort of feel like they're about how do you snowball and not exploring systems and developing a breadth of skills and so on. Like it's actively a bad idea to challenge yourself.
And then you've got, like Demon Souls that the worse you do, the harder it gets.
Yeah, I mean, that's my biggest complaint of Sekiro.
I like when difficulty settings are just straightforward. Like, I launch the game, I select a difficulty setting, and it's, like, predictable throughout the game that it's going to be a specific difficulty curve.
Yeah, but and more to the point, like, games need easy modes for people who are just learning how to play games.
Yeah, I mean, accessibility is huge. I think it's a big thing that RPGs have. Like, it's a big, like, sort of unexplored problem in RPGs.
Yeah.
Because RPGs absolutely reward you more for performing well. And so if you're not performing well, you can get badly stuck in a unwinnable state.
I mean, but there's countless different reasons why someone might want or need a different difficulty level. Like, I mean, adaptive difficulties would be nice too, to where, like, the worse that you're doing, the more the game tries to step in and smooth the curve.
Yeah.
And then as you start to do better, like, it starts to take the training wheels off a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, once again, to circle back around to Hades, but the God mode on Hades was kind of perfect in that sense.
Oh, yeah.
That you just kept dying, and every time you died, game got a little easier until you hit the point where you could actually start clearing stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
I know it's another indie game learned from that. One Step from Eden adapted pretty much exactly that system after Hades came out.
It's a super great system, and I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, with Hades, I hit a point where I had, like, done pretty much all the hard stuff, but I needed to do a bunch of runs and grind some stuff up. And I didn't, it was like, oh, I need to get to the end of, I need to beat Elysium 7 times. Okay, I don't want to just do this the same way every time. Like, I want to kind of experiment and try new stuff out, or, like, try weapons I'm bad at. So God mode was great for that. It was like, all right, I'm going to change the way I'm experiencing this game.
But I also feel like when games do this, they shouldn't judge you for the mode that you're playing on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's the other thing. Can we just completely do away with the mocking people for playing on easy mode?
I'm just so glad that the true ending, that, like, the real endings of games are no longer locked behind difficulty settings.
Yes.
That was dumb.
Except for certain bullet hells.
Such as?
Jamestown?
Yeah, Jamestown does do that.
Yeah.
It's
Jamestown's
been
pretty old.
Tradition for bullet hells to do it for a long time, but even the Toho games don't do it anymore.
Okay, I know I have not played many bullet hells, but I played Jamestown, and it was like,
Toho used to do this, and they have not done for some years.
I mean, Jamestown is like one of the first indie games that I can remember playing.
Wow, how old is James Taub?
It's pretty old.
I know
2014, 2013.
that's not that old.
It's not that old.
We're
I think it was in
talking, like,
early access longer than that, though.
I don't think it was in early access. I don't think early access existed yet.
2011. Jamestown came out in 2011. It's a 10-year-old game at this point.
Yeah, okay. That sounds more like it, because I remember it was one of the first indie games I bought on Steam.
I guess I think of 2014 as the year I played a whole bunch of bullet hell games, and that was one of them. But
Yeah, it definitely predates that lesson having been learned.
I also want to see more projects working on accessibility. Like, Microsoft has really taken the lead on this, but I'd like to see more people doing that as well. So that along with difficulty settings, there's also just different ways to play games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and as somebody who is watching somebody else learn how to use a controller, boy, is that arcane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're familiar to us because we're used to them from when they were rectangles with 4 buttons. But like, how to even properly hold a controller.
And people can't even agree on that one.
Right.
Like, which fingers do you put on the triggers? I mean, my answer is index fingers, or pointer fingers, whatever. But like, there are people that put those on the bumpers and middle fingers on the triggers.
Yep.
But similarly, people can't agree on how to actually hold a mouse.
I am hilariously vindicated on a related note. Recent study done. I forget which like flight sim group was doing this. On mobile, invert Y for camera is increasingly popular. Swipe down to look up. Because it's intuitive. It's how all of the rest of mobile works.
This is true.
It's all about mental models.
And the thing is like, I know at some point I transitioned between the two schemes, because what is invert now used to be standard.
Yeah, it used to be the default.
Have you gone back to play Quake or something that had that as the case?
Yeah, exactly. And like, I had to invert.
I think it was Thief that I played, where I immediately went to options and hit invert Y and was like, wait a second.
Well, there was some game I was playing recently, and it was inverted by default. Oh, it was KOTOR 2.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the point around when it changed. So like, I think in my head that I've always been playing this way, and it's a lie. At some point, I adapted.
You adapted when console shooters got big.
Yeah, I would.
That is the turning point.
But I never played those console shooters.
But didn't matter.
That became the default. Yeah,
right.
That's where it became the default.
Because you're right. I remember back in the day trying to play a console shooter. It was Red Faction.
Mm-hmm.
And being just completely
staring at the ceiling.
Yeah, because it was reverse of what I was used to.
The AC Odyssey demo, like the show demo they had at PAX, whatever year it was there, did not have invert Y. And I basically couldn't play it. I mean, even now, Genshin launched without invert Y on PC.
Yep.
Fall Guys launched without invert Y at all.
Yeah, I can't play Fall Guys.
They patched it in like a week after launch.
I guess I tried it when it launched and then tried it like the next day and then quit. So to be fair, I haven't gone back. No, and Genshin, yeah, I remember that with Genshin. I had to figure out a controller on my PC if I wanted to play it on PC.
I mean, pretty much the first console shooter that I played with any regularity was Destiny. But you're right. At that same time, PC was shifting to move along with it.
Yep.
I mean, way before then.
I mean, Halo, basically.
But Halo has like the most ingenious one ever, though. Halo is the game where they ask you to look up, and you press a direction, and whatever direction you press becomes up.
Oh yeah, no, that's brilliant. But I think Halo was kind of the dam breaking for console shooters, and most console shooters that came after Halo were not as clever. Call of Duty
It's
sure
true.
doesn't.
I remember when Halo first came out, not being very impressed with it.
Oh my goodness, I loved Halo so much.
Like there was a game that came out at the same time, and it was God, what was it? It was like Unreal 2, not Unreal Tournament, but like Unreal 2, which was their story-driven game that I think was designed to be a Halo-like game. I played the hell out of that, and then when we finally got a PC port of Halo, I'm like, I don't understand what's so special about this game. Like, this one's clearly better.
The PC port?
No, the Unreal 2.
Unreal
Oh, yeah.
2.
Nobody
PC.
is saying the PC port of Halo
Good.
is better than anything.
PC port on Halo was horrible.
No, it was truly tragic.
But, like, that was my first Halo experience. So, like, meh. I didn't get why people were so fond of this game.
I was so sad about the PC. I followed Halo well before the Xbox even existed. And I was so sad when I finally got to play it on PC, and it was nothing like the game I had been following.
It was not good. I mean, it just was not good.
I feel like that was the case for lots of PC, like most PC ports at that time.
Well, especially during the Nintendo 64 era, PC ports were just tragic.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
like, there's a lot of Nintendo 64 games that came out on PC because 3DFX, and they were not good. They were really not good.
I just remember that's why I bought a PlayStation, because I bought the PC version of Final Fantasy VII, and it had a massive memory leak, and also the music was bad. So I returned it the following day.
It's all I knew for years. But like, I had a rather expensive Yamaha sound card with a really good sound font, and it sounded pretty good. Like, but I definitely have learned after the fact that it did not sound that way for most people. It is funny how important it is. Like, the first way you experience something ultimately dictates your view of that thing from that point on.
A lot of my early PC stuff was flight sims and Descent, of all things. So
There was an early 3D game that no one remembers that I really liked, and it was called, I think it was called Magic Carpet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
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 But nobody ever talks about that game.
No, that game was like super amazing and awesome when it. I mean, it was like Descent level amazing
Right.
with it,
Yeah.
the 3D.
this was a Peter Molyneux game.
What it was doing was so vastly different than everything else at the 3D game level at that time. But like, it didn't, like, it was mostly a solo game, if I remember correctly. Like, there was some kind of multiplayer, but it was like a non-competitive multiplayer.
I mean, this was back in the days of like when like real-time multiplayer was not that common yet.
Right. But like,
So yeah,
Doom was popular because of death matches. Like, that's why it became the king of the 3D games at that time. Descent was great, but Descent wouldn't run on most people's machines.
yeah, it was
No, I definitely couldn't play it on my computer. My uncle had a computer where I could play Descent.
But I remember playing Descent with a stick.
Yep.
Like, it was
Yep.
too complicated for me to control with anything other than a stick. A lot of my early multiplayer experience was 1v1 because I had a friend that lived across town, and we would start a terminal session between the two of us and then launch games over it, and annoy the hell out of her parents for tying up the phone lines for hour after hour.
I did not have an internet-capable computer until the year 2000.
My the trailer that my wife and I lived in, I ended up taking a bedroom and turning it into a LAN so that we could have like people come over and play multiplayer StarCraft.
We did that with Unreal Tournament. did that with Unreal Tournament, and one of my dad's like company, like the partners in his company, who was like, "Do you think the kids would let me play games with them?" It was really funny. He was like, if I buy these teenagers pizzas, do you think I could play in their LAN party? And we're like, yeah, you can.
Of course.
Man, that's gonna be me.
He had like I remember we all had, like, everybody brought over their computers, and he had this, like, screaming powerful gaming machine. It was really funny.
That's one thing that's changed is, like, those conversations are way the hell more accepted than they used to be. Because, like, when I'm having the weekly meeting with one of my groups, there's one of them that almost always devolves into video game discussion at the end. And it's not me that starts it.
Yeah, like everybody has played at least something. It's not just the super nerdy guys.
Well, and like the Wii was the great democratizer of games as well. It's like everybody's played Wii.
Oh man, that's a thing I'm curious about. I wonder if you could map explosions in the gaming populace adoption of video games to new controllers, to new like inputs. I bet that maps like almost 1-to-1.
I bet you're right.
Like the NES, well, the Atari, small sample size, but the Atari, the NES, the introduction of thumbsticks, the Wii mobile interfaces.
Because like
The next step
pre-Atari,
there is so far as VR, and I don't think that's exactly causing an expansion in gaming.
Well, and I think that part of the reason is that VR hasn't quite figured out controls in a totally new way. Like the input is still clunky.
which probably is a natural segue into the No Man's Sky and VR topic.
Yeah. So I've stalled out a little bit on Half-Life Alyx because it's a very intense game. And as cool as it is, I've had my fill of head crabs jumping at me for a bit. So I was like, let me try something that's not Half-Life Alyx or Beat Saber. And so I loaded up No Man's Sky. Holy wow, that game is different from the last time I played it. Like,
They've got pets now.
unrecognizably. They have.
You can go tame random critters and make them your pets.
There's a game now.
Oh, I mean, there's been a game now for years, and now they're just like adding, I don't know, whatever they just got a bug up about.
Yeah, no, it's pretty impressive, and I'm much more inclined to hop in and try it, and like I kind of want to know what it's like to play this game with other people. Is it Valheim in space? Because I'm here for that.
I mean, I'll admit I'm willing to accept when I'm wrong. I was wrong. A game actually did happen.
Well, and it's so weird. Like that game has had the weirdest trajectory.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure what their plan originally was, but obviously that changed over time. But the game that has evolved is really interesting.
I need to try it sitting. I need to try playing it sitting down. There are a bunch of games that I need to try, like need to figure out. Like Star Wars Squadrons is another game that I haven't played in VR and want to try. But it's just like it's weird and awkward to try to hit buttons and switches on like a HOTAS in VR.
Unless that is being modeled input-wise in the VR space.
This is where No Man's Sky is real clever. Because
that's also the way Elite Dangerous was, too, to where like you can see your movement in-game.
Yeah, I haven't tried Elite Dangerous, and I should. I have a hard enough time landing a ship in Elite Dangerous when I have full control of my faculties than that the prospect of trying to do it in VR horrifies me. But I don't know. We'll see. See what that
was just the big takeaway that I had when I played it at one of the PAX Souths when I was having interview time with those folks. I was shocked at how real time it was. Like, it wasn't my hand, obviously, but it was doing the same things my hand was doing, so it felt like it was my hand.
Yeah. Well, so that's the neat thing about the way No Man's Sky works is when you're out of your ship, wandering around, your hands do hand things. It's like playing Half-Life Alyx. Not quite as high fidelity, but like it's pretty slick. You can get into your inventory. You reach over a shoulder to pull out something from your backpack. It uses a gesture that it uses what I'm starting to think of as the lasso gesture, that I think is going to end up being absolutely crucial and vital to VR games, which is something I first saw in Half-Life Alyx. It's basically you get the opportunity, you can like highlight an object in the world, use a button to lock onto that object, and then you just like flick your wrist back towards you, and it sends the item hurtling towards you to be picked up or caught or whatever. And it's a really, really simple and intuitive motion that lets you pick up stuff without having to do the thing that we do in, first person games where you just like run around smashing your face against all the walls to pick up all the pop-ups in a room. This does that a lot more cleanly, because it's like not, you sort of want to minimize how much movement you're doing, especially like unintuitive movement. And so making you run down a pickup versus bringing the pickup to you works a lot better in VR. But what I think is really interesting is that once you get in the ship, you can reach over to get out of the ship. You reach over and you grab the like hatch handle and pull up on that to open the hatch, and you hop out. But while you're in it, you can grasp because it knows when you're grabbing something, you can grasp the throttle and you can grasp the stick, and it just virtualizes a HOTAS for you for your ship. So you like push forward on it to change your speed and tilt as if you're holding the VR controller like a flight stick. You just tilt it and it tilts the ship for you in the ways that make sense. It works a lot better than I would have expected. But yeah, I was both surprised at how good the VR was, and also just like No Man's Sky is a compelling game. I kind of want to hop back into it and play more to see like what else is in this all of a sudden. Because it seems like, like I've been really into Valheim. Valheim's been a lot of fun. Is this Valheim in space? Because it sure seems that way. With like
more or less, yeah.
That's like an interesting thought.
With like slightly less hostility in the form of hostile creatures.
I don't know.
The environments are way more hostile.
I was gonna say,
apparently there are eggs, and if you pick up the eggs,
yeah. Well, I guess
things get mad about it.
It's less like in Valheim. Within a few seconds of you dropping into the world, something's going to try to fight you. Whereas I had plenty of time to like comfortably get my bearings and wander around before I even found anything that would deal damage to me. And that was a poison spore plant that I kicked.
Before you found any moving thing that would deal damage to you, you mean?
Yeah, and well, I mean...
Because definitely when I started the game, there was something that would deal damage to me immediately.
Taking off your helmet?
No. It's hot. On the very first planet you get.
Oh, interesting. I got a freezing cold planet.
Well, either way.
But yes, yeah.
The environment is a problem.
Yeah. But also, the environment is a problem. The environment is a problem not in a I need to figure out how to fight things way. Like the very first thing the game did was like, hey, the environment's a problem. Here's what you do to handle the environment being a problem. But it's not like a goblin is punching, there's not like some kind of space bear that's trying to maul me. That probably comes later.
I mean, there are hostile creatures. There are also lots of hostile robots. But yeah, I have been thinking about returning to it for a while just because there's been so much content that's been put in.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to hop back into this thing that's like, this new player experience is wholly different from what I remember. There seems to be a story. What?
I know we kind of got a late start, but also I know that we're losing an hour. So I'm also maybe okay with a short show. Any final thoughts that anybody has?
Watch WandaVision.
WandaVision is phenomenal.
It was very, very good. And it's all there now, so you can binge the whole thing and not have to suffer a week at a time wondering what's going to happen next.
If I will say, like with WandaVision, at least give it 4 episodes.
Yes.
It's going to come across as complete nonsense.
It's like anime. At least give this 9-episode show half of its runtime before deciding.
Yeah.
That said, each of these episodes is less than 30 minutes. So
I mean, to be fair, you kind of had to watch the entire Watchmen HBO series before any of it made much sense. Like, at least you get some clue halfway through here.
Mostly the first 2 episodes in particular leaned very heavily into the riffing on old sitcoms, and those are the episodes riffing on the oldest sitcoms. So if you didn't grow up watching the Dick Van Dyke Show and Bewitched on Nick at Night, then you might not have, any connection to this. But then, the third episode is where we get to what is it mostly riffing on?
Malcolm in the Middle? Is that the one that is it the third?
Malcolm in the Middle's not.
Middle?
No, that's the 6th.
Okay.
That's like the 6th episode.
The 4th episode isn't riffing on anything.
The fourth one isn't riffing on anything. The 4th one is a break. Yeah.
Maybe the 3rd episode was Silver Spoons / Growing Pains.
No, you're still too early. The third episode is the first episode in color. I guess it's the Brady Bunch.
Oh, Brady Bunch. Yeah. Okay.
That's the Brady Bunch episode.
It's a good media nerd show.
But yeah, it's very much it riffs on old sitcoms, and it is a show about dealing with grief. That is the point of the show, and it does a very good job with that. And I don't know, maybe we can talk about it more in depth here at some point. But yeah, it was exactly what I've been wanting them to do with the Marvel Universe, with the MCU, like since it began, because like superhero action is great and all, and that's what translates to movies really well. But there's so much more to superhero comics than fights and action.
Well, and to be honest, like Disney has given us now, Mandalorian, which was excellent, but it was a different kind of excellent. Now you have WandaVision, which is quite possibly the most comic booky series that I've ever seen.
Yes.
And I'm on board with whatever Disney comes out with from now on in these properties.
WandaVision gave me the soap opera character development elements that I have been missing.
I'm so on board for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I guess begins next week, I think.
Yeah.
I'd still watch the like Grey's Anatomy but Star Wars.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I would watch that show. Like no, I don't need like crazy lightsaber fights or like big galaxy spanning. Like show me a bunch of like people in the future dealing with random stuff. Like I haven't watched Star Trek Lower Decks, and I'm hoping that it's not like just a total teardown of Star Trek, but like that's also kind of what's great about Star Trek is it's also just like slice of life drama.
That everything I've heard about Lower Decks is that it is absolutely poking fun at the more serious shows, but it is doing it in a very loving manner.
I've been watching Star Trek Lower Decks. I think it's hilarious.
Like the people that I have seen gush the most about Lower Decks are like established Star Trek fans.
It's available on Bell Gas Television, isn't it?
That's where I'm watching it.
Yeah, I need to get access to this.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk offline.
I mean, shush. This non-existent thing.
It doesn't exist.
Thing. I need you to go duck hunting on Monday.
Okay. I will go duck hunting on Monday.
It will be for the last time, sadly.
For the last time.
If this is the last podcast anybody hears, you'll know why.
So I have to say, every so often, I get these non sequitur messages from Kodra that's just one word, ducks, ?
There's ducks to be hunted.
Yeah. That said, after the finale of the television series, we're getting a 7-episode podcast.
I'm super here for it.
This Duckburg life, I cannot wait.
And
That's amazing.
It's Huey. Of course, it's Huey.
Fantastic.
It's like absolutely doing.
I'm so on board.
Yeah,
I'm so on board with this.
Apparently, the first episode is themed entirely around messages left on Launchpad's answering machine.
Yep.
What?
Launchpad in the future. I need you to understand this.
Okay.
Other things that happened is the Lancer campaign book came out.
Ooh, I'm looking forward.
To be a good time.
Robots.
Okay. Hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.